Okay, how's everybody doing today? I think it's Thanksgiving weekend, so I hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. But I want to come on and talk a little bit about Bitcoin because it's looking like it's getting close to 37,800. So I'm thinking it might go over 38,000 pretty quickly. And if it hits 38,000, that's as high as it's been here recently. Refresh the page and see where it's at. Yeah, 37,851. So we're getting really close to 38,000. I think goes 38,000. It's probably going to be, you know, it's going to be right at knocking at the door at 40. If it's knocking at the door at 40, you can pretty much guarantee it's going to be 40. So here we go. We got the trifecta going on. The trifecta with Bitcoin right now is that there is potentially very close to an ETF. What an ETF is, people talk about it all the time. They always use the initials ETF. It is an exchange traded fund. So basically, someone is allowed to, I'll just read it real quick. ETFs or exchange traded funds are exactly as the name implies. Funds trade on exchanges, generally tracking a specific index. And in this case, you got BlackRock, you've got a couple others that are working on getting an exchange traded fund for Bitcoin because they want to invest in Bitcoin because they know Bitcoin's got a fixed number of outstanding tokens. Only will ever be 21 million. Probably one of the only things in the world today that you can trade and invest and do whatever you want. And nobody's going to ever make any more than what is built in or baked in to the protocol, which is 21 million. That's it. It's not like the US dollars where they're spending trillions and trillions every month. It's not like other cryptos where if you're investing in one of these altcoins, all they have to do is change the code and they create more tokens. Bitcoin isn't like that. Bitcoin's the only one like this. Ethereum, they can create more tokens. All the EOS, they can create more tokens. They do all the time. They just continue. They do like what they do with the US dollar. They just continue to create more tokens. Bitcoin's unique in that respect. That's why the guys from EOS took the money from the EOS coin when they did the ICO and bought Bitcoin with it because they understood that principle. So anyway, Bitcoin has 21 million, fixed number. It's been around for a long time. Second thing going on with it is we got this ETF coming up pretty quickly. And that's really going to change the ball game because now people are going to say, hey, it's ETF. We just have to buy the fund and we got a ticker symbol and we can watch Bitcoin and have it safe within a fund. It's all regulated. We can put our investment income in there, investment money, everything can go right into the ETF and it's safe. Not like holding your own coins or holding your own, your number, whatever I'm trying to think of what that is right now. I'll think about it in a second. So whatever the 52 uppercase, lowercase, whatever it is, you don't have to hold that anymore. Your wallet, whatever it is, I forget what they call it, but anyway. So you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. It's just in a fund. They take care of it. It's managed. It's all written out ahead of time, and you got that done. The other thing that's going on right now is, of course, you got massive inflation in the United States. You got the problem with two proxy wars going on, one in Ukraine, the other one going on in Israel. So you got all that going on. You got the Congress always spending money, all this other stuff. So yeah, I think Bitcoin right now, probably a pretty safe bet. And then the final thing we got going on with Bitcoin is you have the halving coming up next year, very, very soon next year. So yeah, this is it's already gone up a lot. But the reason for this video and the reason I want to make this point is that everybody's waiting for the ETF, but basically the ETF is already done. The ETF, the exchange traded fund, is already done. And the reason it's done is because really, technically, you can already invest in Bitcoin by buying a couple stocks. You could buy Coinbase, which it's gone up quite a bit here recently. You can see what it's done in the last 5 days. Gone from under $100 to well over $100, $115. So Coinbase is essentially an ETF traded on the NASDAQ. I thought it was traded on the New York Stock Exchange, but I guess it's on the NASDAQ. It says NASDAQ right here. I used to own Coinbase back when it first went public, but it wasn't performing as well as Bitcoin, so I just sold the Coinbase and bought Bitcoin. But Coinbase is basically an ETF. So the ETF's already been done. It's done. It's done through Coinbase. Coinbase is a custody owner of a lot of Bitcoin, a lot of Bitcoin. In fact, they're even saying like BlackRock's going to use them to be their in between custody, so that they'll own. Look, it's up 19% in the last 5 days. Wow. Let's see. Brian Armstrong's going to be doing well. I think his name is Brian Armstrong. Yeah, Brian Armstrong. That's the founders. So you can buy Coinbase right now basically as an ETF. And, a lot of people hold their crypto in Coinbase. I mean, that's probably the safest place to hold your crypto. If you don't want to hold your private keys, that's what I was thinking about earlier. The keys, your private key, you don't want to have it. You have to on-ramp it. If you're going to, take your Bitcoin and use it for buying something, you got to turn it into fiat. But I think there's going to be more and more places starting to accept Bitcoin. I mean, that was the thing. I was watching Warren Buffett the other night. And he said, well, nobody takes Bitcoin. No, Buffett's like, first of all, I can't believe he's still alive. And secondly, he's always wrong on these kind of things. He's wrong on the whole internet. He's missed the last 30 years of investing by buying companies like, all the See's Candy, Coca-Cola, Nebraska Furniture Mart. These are the kind of companies Buffett's been invested in. He's bought Apple. I think that's the only reason he's bought Apple. But he's missed on Microsoft and everything else. So he's missed on a lot of stuff, and he's missing on cryptocurrency because the guy doesn't even do email. I mean, when you're worth billions of dollars and you're 90 or almost 100 years old, how old is Warren Buffett? Let me see how old Warren Buffett is. I can't even believe the guy's still around. I actually went to school in University of Nebraska, Omaha, which was really right like a block or two from his house. There, he's 93 years old. So the guy's 93 years old. He's not going to be around much longer. So who cares what he says? He's just a folksy old guy. Well, actually, he's probably more than that. And if you really check into Buffett, he's a pretty nefarious guy, a pretty creepy old guy. But people still listen to him because he's got a lot of money, and who knows who his investors are? I don't even know who they are. Nobody knows. He's got Berkshire Hathaway, been around forever. I wished I would have bought Berkshire Hathaway in the 1980s. I had $5,000 when I was going to college, and I invested it, actually leveraged it in a margin account, and pretty much lost the money because the interest was like 20%, and ended up with like $900 after a few years. And I felt I did just bought $5,000 in Berkshire Hathaway in 1985, 1986. Never forgot about it. I wouldn't be making this video today, that's for sure. So anyway, that's one option, is to go to Coinbase. The second one is to do MicroStrategies. This is another publicly traded company on the NASDAQ, which is, everybody knows this guy if they've watched any crypto at all, which is Michael Saylor. He talks up Bitcoin all the time. This is MicroStrategy, kind of a funny company. They used to do software, but they quit doing software. Now they're just an investment vehicle for Bitcoin. Michael Saylor has pretty much decided he can't outthink the computers. There's no way to game anything anymore with all especially with AI and inputs in computers. So he's just decided to sell out and be a Bitcoin investor. So he's taken all the money from MicroStrategies and basically put it in Bitcoin. So he's doing well too. Look, he's up 28% of the last. What is this telling you, man? This thing it's almost at 38,000. All these funds or all these stocks that are holding a lot of Bitcoin are going up like 20% in the last 5 days, 28% in the last 5 days. I mean, this is crazy. This is crazy stuff. So yeah, Bitcoin, it's, the dollar, I don't think the dollar's dying. A lot of people, I watch these videos all the time about people saying the dollar's going to die. The dollar's not going to die. And the reason the dollar's not going to die, it's going to go digital, but it's not going to die, is because even though it's bad and the inflation is incredible and the printing presses are incredible. Interesting story. G. Edward Griffin. I mean, this is the guy that actually I got started with a long time ago. I read his book, Creature from Jekyll Island. And this is in the 1990s, like early 1990s. He's 92 years old. This book right here is the book I read, The Creature from Jekyll Island. So I knew back in the 90s that something was not right about our financial system. I just didn't understand it. So, and of course I went to college and took business, and they didn't teach you anything about banking. It was kind of a joke. So I just kind of started researching and realizing that, man, this thing is not making any sense. So I was listening, and I was I was a farmer in those days. So you were a captive audience. You're on a tractor all day or a combine or something like that. You had nothing to do to listen to radio. Well, in those days, they didn't have, we had, we're in Western Nebraska. We didn't have very good radio. So if you didn't want to listen to like music radio, you want to listen to talk radio, the only radio stations available were Christian radio stations. And of course, after a while, the Christian radio stations figured out, hey, there's an audience out there for, I guess, conspiracy stuff. So they kind of started doing Christian conspiracy and stuff like that. And a guy by the name of Marlon Maddox, who had a talk show back in those days, passed away a long time ago. Died of basically the same thing I had. He had a bypass surgery, just like I had. But his didn't turn out well. He died in the bypass surgery. So anyway, he had this G. Edward Griffin on a show back in the 1990s, and I read that book. It's about 1,000 pages, but I read it pretty quickly. And when I read that book, my whole mindset's changed. At that point, I just knew that at one day the financial system was going to have some sort of change. That could not continue the way it was going, and it can't continue to go. And that's when I started kind of meandering around, bought gold and silver for a while, and then that didn't really work out too well. And the people that are still pushing gold and silver, they haven't caught up to them. They're like Buffett. They're behind times. So read this book. And then, of course, when my son started getting into crypto, I realized, wow, crypto's the answer. That's got to be the future. It's digital. It's online. It's easy to transfer. It doesn't have that third-party intermediary, the banks, which the banks were just nothing but friction points and, ways to take money from you. So yeah, I got into cryptocurrencies with my son, and that's been something I've been interested in for probably about 7-8 years now. So maybe more than that, since 2015. I was like, that's 8 years. So going on 9 years, been into cryptocurrencies. So watch Bitcoin. Like I say, ETFs are basically a done deal. They've already been, all an ETF is, and all anybody wants is they want to see a ticker symbol behind Bitcoin. They want to see Bitcoin. They want to see it on a New York stock or some sort of stock exchange, NASDAQ, with a ticker symbol. Well, you got it already today. You got it with MicroStrategies, and you got it with Coinbase. We got a ticker symbol attached to Bitcoin. So the ETF isn't going to be anything different than what you already got there. Now, after that being said, there may be things that, if you're a fund manager, you may have certain restraints about buying something like Coinbase or MicroStrategies because these funds are all set up with agreements ahead of time. So if you're going to take over some pension fund or something like that, you have to have things pretty well spelled out. So if they do get a Bitcoin ETF like BlackRock does, that will allow tons of investors to come into it. Lots of money to come into it, tons of money. In fact, I say there's lots of money ready to come into Bitcoin, but it has to be done in the format of a ETF instead of like buying a stock. But basically, you got ETF already approved, in my opinion, just by the fact that Coinbase and MicroStrategies are both heavily invested in Bitcoin, and both of them trade on the New York stock or on the stock NASDAQ stock exchange. So yeah, this is it's already done. It's already done. If you want to buy Bitcoin, just go to Coinbase, buy the stock. You don't have to buy Bitcoin, buy the stock. If you want to buy Bitcoin, go to MicroStrategies, buy the stock. And then you got a stock. So it's already done. It's a done deal. And then I'm sure it's pretty much over. They're going to do the ETF. It's been talked about for a long time, and I'm pretty sure it's going to happen pretty quickly. So yeah, it's done, and count it, put it in the bank. You got the inflation, you got the Bitcoin prices have gone up a lot here recently. You have, like I said, the halving coming up, which always drives the price up higher. And it looks like we're in kind of the beginnings of a bull market. So keep an eye on Bitcoin. I think it's probably going to crash through 40 here pretty quick. And if it goes through 40, it might go to 50 pretty fast. Appreciate you watching. Thank you.